Cfe has a long history going back 140 years. With a view to the future, Cfe will be split and two distinct and strong listed companies will be created. DEME on the one hand and the new Cfe on the other. Cfe will continue to strengthen its position as a leading multidisciplinary group addressing highly attractive growth markets. Sustainable buildings, smart industries and infrastructure for tomorrow's mobility and energy. Through our core activities and complementary expertise, from real estate development over construction and renovation to multi-techniques, we offer end-to-end solutions to our customers. Our core activities that make Cfe a leader in sustainability and innovation. From acquisition to maintenance, Cfe covers the entire building life cycle. Together with our partners, we support society to create the highest impact for the next generation. With our pioneering mindset, innovative drive and our aim for societal impact, Cfe has the ambition to accelerate this transformation by building platforms for sustainable growth, by leveraging the full range of capabilities through an integrated approach while excelling in its core activities through risk, operations and human resource management. Our passionate people are our heroes, guided by a highly experienced management team. All this supported by the strong Spark strategy with the aim of impacting our community. Good evening, everybody. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to join us. Fabien and myself are present. We are very, very happy and very excited to share with you the fantastic story of Cfe in the next 60 minutes. After having seen this short video, I hope that you understand as well that Cfe is much more than a construction company. Thanks to the diversity and the breadth of our activities and our competencies. And we will take the next minutes to explain much more in detail why we are so excited about our future. And why? Because Cfe is active in those industries that will in many respects shape the future of our society. That's a big responsibility we have, but it's also a very big opportunity we have. And it's in this light that we have defined the purpose, our reason to exist, and where we want to go in the future with Cfe. And we have summarized this in our purpose that you can read on the first slide here. We bring together people, skills, technology, and materials in a community of change for good. So it's much broader than just our activities. It's really creating a community around change, and I hope you will be in the next, after 60 minutes, so excited as we are about this future. As a demonstrator of this ambition, we show also on the right-hand side of this picture here, our new headquarters that we are building right now and that we are moving in end of 2023. This will be a showcase for a sustainable building and a smart building, and it will be realized 100% by Cfe companies. And it actually will be a bio-based building based on a wood hybrid structure. Okay, so I'm here tonight with Fabien and myself. We will present you the story of Cfe. Fabien is a CFO. He has been a CFO of Cfe since the last 8 years. Is with the company since 20 years and has an extreme wealth of knowledge in everything that's related to financing, real estate, investments. The CEO of the Cfe contracting business. And before that, most of my experience has been in industrial, mostly stock traded companies active in building materials and composite materials. And here's what we will share with you over the next 60 minutes. So first we give an overview of Cfe. Then we go a little bit deeper in our strategy that we summarize under the acronym SPARK. Then we go into the detailed 4 business segments and give much more detail about where the business segments are positioned and where we are going. And then we have a financial overview and also share with you our targets. To open the first topic, who we are, I couldn't think about a better picture than this. And it's all about building a sustainable and an innovative world. And this picture is actually the green garden of one of our largest projects that we are doing right now, which is the project Zin in Noord, that I will come back later on in the presentation. But it will be actually a showcase of a sustainable and a smart building of the future, which also has a very flexible and future-proof building design. And we are very proud that this building will be realized 100% by the companies of the Cfe group. And our future is all about innovation and sustainability and having the highest potential impact for the next generation. And that's why we have decided to focus on those industries where, first of all, that are key in order to have a good future for our society. So there will be fundamental shifts that need to take place. These are also industries where we believe there are fundamentally positive growth drivers in the future. And three, these are industries where we as Cfe have the right capabilities, competencies, and resources to make a difference. And those three segments are sustainable buildings, smart industries, and infrastructures for tomorrow, mobility and utilities. So in short, we shape smart and sustainable living and working places of the future. There are so many reasons why we believe it's a very good investment to invest in Cfe, but we would like to summarize this here just in 6 points. First of all, with more than 140 years of existence and always been stock traded, we have built many more capabilities than just in one field. We are truly today a multidisciplinary integrated group, which is focused on very solid countries and really highly attractive markets. Secondly, we cover the entire life cycle for buildings, from acquisition up to maintenance. And that is extremely important and becomes even more important in the future as we're talking about life cycle assessments, as we are talking about total cost of ownership, not only about the initial capex for a building project, but also afterward the running cost. And optimizing the entire life cycle cost of a building will be really what will be demanding, to the society. And there we have built over time unique expertise. Three, we do believe we have a solid future-proof strategy that is creating stakeholder value, not only shareholder value. So it's a sustainable strategy, and we really realize this primarily through synergies between the different competencies that we have in our group. We are also a leader in sustainability, not only with words, but with action and clear solutions. And we'll show you some of them here in the presentation already today. Fifth, we have a very strong financial position, and Fabien will cover that in much more detail with you. And then sixth, and last but not least, our real asset is our passionate people, as we call our heroes. And it's our more than 3,000 people on our more than 500 job sites that make the difference. And we as management provide guidance, support, and direction. Why is this now a perfect time, to separate from DEME? Because we are ready for it, and it will allow us to focus even more on our business segments and our activities. We have over the last 12 years there have been several acquisitions that have been done, and over the last 6-7 years we have streamlined the organization. We have created certain clusters to include different acquisitions into really strong clusters that go together into the market. We have stopped some activities that were loss-making and really focused on there where we could make a difference. And we focused also geographically on those markets where we could really make a difference. So with strong shareholders behind us, it is now the right time for us to really focus on the core activities of Cfe. And those activities here we have grouped into 4 segments. And it really shows that we are a leading multidisciplinary group with complementary expertise, and that we offer really end-to-end solutions to our clients. The first is our real estate development that we are active under the name of Bpi, which has generated last year more than 50% of our profitability. We are active in 3 countries and really focus on inner city and multi-purpose development on a large scale with our 80 colleagues. The second one is our multi-tech segment, where we operate under 2 names. VMA, where we provide technical solutions for buildings and for industry, and then Mobix, where we provide infrastructure solutions for mobility and energy and utility systems. And you can actually see it's our largest single business segment, and it has provided last year about 1/3 of our profitability. The third one is what we call construction and renovation. And we specifically also talk about renovation, because renovation will become a key growth area for the future. And we have already today lots of capabilities in the renovation market. And as you can see, with 1,500 people, it is also one of our largest business segments. And then the fourth one is investment, where we have some strategic investments in some areas that will further increase the value in the future that Fabien will cover in more detail. So in total, this diversified group, more than 1.1 billion in turnover, and good profitability, both in terms of return on sales as it relates to return on equity. Over time, we have developed some very strong leadership positions, and they are much broader than just in a couple of years. And so we would like to highlight them here, because many of them are actually not known in the general public. I think many people know that we are one of the top construction contractors in Belgium, and actually in buildings we are definitely among the top 2 or 3. But we are also the largest integrator for rail infrastructure in Belgium to Infobel, where we have all the expertise under one roof, whether it's track, the electrification, it's also called catenary, and signaling. We have also a very proven business model, an integrated business model between real estate development and the construction side. And I'll come back to that later on, but there are big synergies between those two under one roof. We also have a fully integrated multi-technical installation offering. And it's not only electricity and HVAC, but it's all the technical offering that we have. We also have a smart building management system, and we also offer the maintenance of those techniques in the buildings afterwards. We have started up several years ago a wooden and hybrid construction company, and I'm very proud to say that today we are the leader in large-scale wooden and hybrid buildings, both in construction and in real estate development in Belgium and Luxembourg, with more than 150,000 square meters already in development or in construction. We are also a leading real estate developer in Belgium and in Luxembourg, covering the entire building life cycle and focusing really on sustainability, with over 200,000 square meters already of CO2-friendly development being done in 2021. And what is even less known for the general public is that we are actually converting the largest buildings in Belgium and in Luxembourg as well into smart and circular buildings. And I give just 2 examples here. Is the Gare Maritime that was entirely built by Cfe companies and which also uses our smart building management system. And on the project Zini Nord, our smart building management system will also be put in place. And then another area that is for us is really something that we focus on much more in the future is our digital capabilities. And because we have an experience in industry and in buildings, we can leverage those competencies between those both sectors. And today we have a large area of digital capabilities, going from building information modeling capability in design and in execution, over smart building management system, over also virtual factory commissioning, offline and online, and visualization technologies. I mentioned that we focused on 3 market segments, and because we have resources, we have capabilities, and we believe these are segments which have very good growth perspective. And I just mentioned those 3 here, and we'll just give a little bit of highlight why we believe they are very good sectors for us in the future. The first one is buildings. Buildings represents about, or the buildings and real estate and infrastructure represent about 40% of the CO2 emissions in the world, about 50% of the waste that is generated in the world, and also there are statistics about 40 to 60% of the traffic as it relates. So there's huge impact, and and now finally legislation is picking up. The clients are also now really stepping up. So there will be a massive shift in the buildings, how we build buildings, how we renovate buildings in the future, in the coming years. Also, what we see is a densification of the living spaces in the cities. So there will also be a whole shift of destination of some class of buildings. For example, in city centers, offices will definitely be converted in multi-use or in residential buildings, which also creates just a natural demand for the future. And the third one is we also see the next generation have different needs, and demographic shifts means that there will be a need for more healthy well-being will become more important. Use versus own his own property is also a real trend, which will also fundamentally impact the new demand for buildings in the future. In industry, we see really two major trends happening there. Number one is a massive investment in technology, in digitalization, in automation, first to get the productivity up, to get less waste, but also to deal with a real shortage of labor. So technology solutions will help industry to grow and to be more productive and deal with the shortage of labor that we see in all sectors currently. And the second one is that we do believe that we see, because of the geopolitical situation in the world, that there will be another growth area for industry in general in the wider European region, and we will also benefit from this trend. As it relates to mobility, we see three positive factors. First is the rapid electrification of mobility in general. Secondly is the shift towards a more multimodal mobility, and rail and train are key enabler of this multimodal shift. And the third one is just massive investments in infrastructure for the future of mobility. And there as well in Belgium, after several years of really slowdown in public investment, we see also since a couple of years, and we do expect in the future a more buoyant market for infrastructure for mobility. A little bit more detail here about the various markets, and we started with the real estate development and some statistics about that. So for our three core markets, which are Belgium, Luxembourg, and Poland, in general, I would say that we are in markets which have fundamentally positive drivers. Belgium has always been a stable market for real estate. Also during crisis, the Belgian market has traditionally been less subject to ups and downs. And so we do consider Belgium a stable and healthy market for real estate development. In Luxembourg, we have seen a very buoyant market situation over the last years, with very good demand linked to the population growth, with an increase of prices, which was quite significant, and just with a very good situation also as it relates to obtaining of building permits. And Poland has been a fantastic market, and we do see that Poland has still very good growth perspective in the coming years, as there's a real pent-up demand there, and that the country and the society really wants to build wealth. So we do see very good prospects over the coming years. As it relates to the construction industry outlook, here you can see the statistics with which are the last available official statistic on a European scale, which date now already several months. But fundamentally, we have seen, number one, a very strong rebound after the COVID forced shutdown in 2020. So last year was a very buoyant year for the construction industry. This year is the same. Obviously, we do expect a little slowdown, linked to the material prices that have been, raising very fast, and the inflation and the interest rates also that went up. But fundamentally, we do believe that there is pent-up demand there, and that through the cycle, we really do see that the fundamentals for the construction business are very, very positive. As it relates to two other indicators that we are following, these are first of all the European smart building market. As I mentioned to you, the CO2 emissions that must be reduced, and also the optimization of materials in buildings forced to use much more technology in buildings. And smart building technologies do today exist, and by installing them, one can improve the energy efficiency of buildings very often, as much as or even better, more than if one would invest in heavy renovation of the envelope or the insulation. So it is a clear part of the solution of tomorrow. And that's why we see structurally very high growth rates in this market segment. And the other one, as I mentioned, is the industrial automation leading to productivity. And there as well, we have already seen a growth over the last couple of years. But because of now available technologies and the adoption of these technologies in a much broader range of industries, we do see an even further growth rate or a faster growth rate of those technologies going forward. Last but not least is our people. We want to make a point here, and we really call our people our heroes. And it's not only something that we say by word. We really mean this, and we treat our people really like our heroes, and we invest heavily in our people because they are really our biggest assets. And there are really three domains where we focus on. First of all, we want to be a very attractive employer, and that means that we are very focused on attracting the right talent and then keeping that talent. So we are very active in the labor market at universities, to present our company and to make sure that we get the right talent in place. We really try to have community thinking, and we actively manage communities, both within our company, but also with social causes that really help to create bonds with the company. And then we do also every 2 years an engagement survey where we really measure the pulse, what's going on in our organization with net promoter scores, and that gives us a very good feeling what's going on, and we can really then act or take action based on really facts about how our people feel and behave and feel in our company. The second one is well-being and safety. Safety is our most important value. We put lots of effort on the safety. We are an industry front runner in safety, as when we look at our statistics as relates to our safety performance. It's very important to us. We also do this on well-being. So we invest heavily in there and really try to create an environment where people feel safe and feel very good. And the third one is our investment in learning and in the development. We have dedicated specific training and development programs for various categories of employees, growth trajectories also, from young project leaders into intermediate management to future leaders for the company. We also have what we call the Cfe Academy, where we have structured all those programs in a coherent framework of development over time. And when we do our surveys into our population about why people like working at Cfe, it's really this combination of having a very human and caring environment, like this family orientation, but also being part of a large, solid group where there are growth perspectives, where there's stability and solidity. So this combination of being very close to our people in a local environment, but also being a very strong group and getting this mix, this balance right, is really what we're trying to achieve at Cfe as the management. And the management here, we have our new executive committee that I have the pride and really to lead. And is a very diverse group in terms of background, experiences, and I very much believe that this is a big source of value creation, but also lots of experience. Experience in the various fields in all of our businesses, and also some external expertise. We have also the digital innovation officer that is part of the team. We also have our sustainability officer that is part of the team, just to reinforce again why and how important digitalization, innovation, and sustainability are about our future. The most important for me is really have the same view and a common view about the future where we want to drive our company going forward. And with that, I'm very proud and very, very convinced that we will really have a very bright future with this team to execute our strategy. And that leads me now into talking a bit more about our strategy. And the strategy, we call it SPARK, and that's an acronym, and I'll come a little more into that afterwards. But as a picture here about showing what our strategy is all about, we decided to show here the picture of a project called Zin Nord. And it really is, for me, exactly what we want to do in terms of sustainability and innovation applied to our market segment. And this project here, Zin Nord, is the redevelopment of the old Twin Towers, I would call it, so the World Trade Center 1 and World Trade Center 2 at the north area of Brussels. And the project consists of redeveloping it and converting it into a multifunctional, state-of-the-art, future-proof building, which will host offices, apartments, hotel, retail, sport facilities, and also open space facility like the greenhouse that you can see at the bottom, and an open rooftop at the top. The project is a showcase because it is based, number one, on circular economy principles. 65% of the weight of the old buildings were kept in place. 95% of the material that has been removed from the old buildings are either recycled or reused, and very often reused on the job site. For example, the concrete of the old buildings has been recycled and is being reused in the new concrete that we are now putting back into the new building. And 95% of the totally new materials that are being used must have the cradle-to-cradle silver certificate, something that did not exist in the Belgian market at this scale when we started this project 2 years ago. So we're very proud that we can realize this project for our client 100% with CFA companies, and we are also very proud that the smart building management system that will be used on this building will also be the smart building management system of CFA. A little bit more detail about our strategy, and we choose to call it SPARK because it's a perfect acronym for what it's all about, and it's about shift, perform, accelerate, return, and community. Shift, perform, and accelerate. These are our key strategic actions, and I will cover them a little bit more in detail. And by doing so, we will create a return, an attractive return for all the stakeholders, and a community. We are convinced that no company today is big enough to have the impact that that society needs in order to transform those areas that don't work today and to change the status quo. And therefore, our aim is to create a community of our people, our partners, and people who share the same vision to really do create the impact and act as a close community, to create those changes that are needed. So let me now talk about each part individually. Shift stands all for we put sustainability and innovation at the heart of our business. And that's a major transformation in an industry which traditionally has not been very sustainable, and in an industry where innovation was also not something that was at the forefront of the thinking. And in sustainability, we started our sustainability strategy in 2018. In 2019, we put together a very specific plan where we started with the 17 goals of the United Nations. We built on our own materiality matrix. Out of that, we defined 12 key themes on which we want to work, which we grouped under 4 key areas: people, materials, mobility, and energy. And for each of those areas, we have defined specific programs, action plans, and KPIs. And on this slide, I just highlight some of them, some of those, just that you get a feel for, what are the key aspects there. Under people, obviously, safety is for us the most important one, and we want to be the industry front runner in our business segments in safety. And here you can see our statistics for the last year, where we have been lower than the industry average, both in safety, in the frequency rate, but also in the severity rate. And that's something that we monitor, obviously, on an ongoing basis. On materials, there are several things that we are looking at. We are looking at our waste, we are looking at the water that we consume, but also we are looking at the materials that we reuse. And only last year on our project that we developed ourselves, we were able to reuse some 35,000 tons in our project in development. In energy, our key KPI is the reduction of CO2. We committed already to a reduction of our CO2 emissions for what we call Scope 1 and Scope 2, which means our direct emissions, by 40% by 2030 compared to 2020. And we also have started an exercise based on the science-based targets, because we committed to join science-based targets already in 2019. Over the last 2 years, we did a very detailed exercise on our what we call the Scope 3. So our indirect emissions that are linked to the activities that we do. And there this year, we will also publish a commitment for a reduction in our Scope 3 emissions. And on mobility, I come back to that when we talk more about Mobix, but there are several aspects. Obviously, we have our internal green fleet strategy and our internal mobility, but we think that our biggest impact is by really enabling soft mobility and smart mobility as it relates particularly to our rail business. The second point is innovation, which we really put at the center of our strategy. And here at the bottom, I show 8 pictures of areas that we have focused our innovation on during the last year. So these are not only words, but we have specific programs here. And I'll just highlight here a couple of them for you. On the left, you can see smart site logistics. We were the first construction company that used consolidation centers, both in Belgium and in Luxembourg, whereby we, for city center projects, we store first our materials that we use on the job site in a consolidation center, and then we ship it combined, with consolidated shipments to the job site. By measuring that, we have been able to measure that we have a reduction in the shipments, so on the transport in city centers on the job site, of up to 50%. We believe that for city center projects, this is a technology that will become standard and has to become standard. On the fourth, I show here the intelligent energy optimization. So we have developed our own building energy monitoring and optimization tool, which is a program that we market now to all clients, to investors and to developers and to building owners. And that allows, as I mentioned, with not too big investments, to actually reduce the consumption of the buildings significantly just by starting to monitor and to adjust the consumption of critical equipment within buildings. And then the next one here is what we call bio-based materials. So we have started up Wood Shapers several years ago, which is the bio-based wood construction company. And we are not only talking here about wood, but we were talking about really moving as many products on a real estate development project into bio-based as possible over time. And there we have several programs going on, and we do believe that for a large part of the market, this is the way to go, and that we have to go as an industry and as a sector. The second part of our strategy is called Perform, and Perform is all about excellence that drives results. And, for us, it's first of all in risk management and operational excellence. We have put in place what we call a selective bidding process, which ensures that we have a very rigorous governance as it relates to risk, particularly important in our construction and multi-tech, so our contracting business. So we have the local entities that are close to the customers and close to its people, so they know what's going in the market, but they follow a very strict and centrally guided risk tool that allows us to ensure that we reduce the number of bleeders of difficult projects over time. We also launched various numbers of initiatives that we call Fit for Future and Way of Working, which really is all about standard processes. It's to improve our processes as it relates to programs like procurement, like job site execution, and so forth. And we have all this governed by a structured, centralized project management office, which ensures that those programs get implemented and the impact gets monitored. The second part of our performance strategy is our business model, which is very resilient. And we have the combination of those business segments under one roof creates significant synergies. One, for example, is the working capital synergy that we have between our real estate development, which is in need of cash, which must invest in new projects, and our contracting businesses, which generally are cash positive. So we can use the cash that is generated in our contracting business to invest in real estate, and by doing so, overall, we can reduce the need for external financing. And the third aspect of it is our track record in terms of value creation in our capital allocation process. We do have a rigorous capital allocation process that we put in place also with our shareholders, and that has allowed us to, over time, to really come to very good return on capital employed and very good return on equity, despite the fact that we have over the last years have done 3 acquisitions. We have had 3 startups, and we have doubled our maintenance business with recurring income, and we have also doubled our real estate business. So despite all those investments, we have been able to continuously generate very good return on capital employed. And the third part of our strategy is what we call accelerate, and this is accelerate through sustainable platforms. By creating more synergies, by putting all the capabilities of the group together, we will accelerate our growth in areas where we can make a difference, either through technology or through our capabilities, or just through the scale, or just through the competences that we have. The first one is our what we call total solutions provider. It's really to provide an integrated A to Z offer of project management and services to a client. One example that I want to mention here is the headquarter of the NMBS SNCB, which we are right now in development, and we actually won this project together with a partner, because we could put together our competency in real estate development, in design and build, in construction, but also in maintenance. And it's this combination of all those expertise that we could offer to the client, and that at the end made us win this project. The second one is our integrated maintenance and energy solution that we call vManager. So that's really the next generation integrated building management tool. I covered this already previously. The third one is our wood and hybrid construction with wood shapers that I also already briefly spoke about. And then technology provider. As I mentioned, we have significant technology in digitalization that we apply in various industries. And by combining this expertise, we can accelerate and provide even more technology solutions to our clients. And we have seen it specifically, for example, our building management system that we are developing for the building segment. Actually, the origin of it comes because we are also in the automotive business, and in the automotive business, we use PLCs, which is an open source system, and it's this open source PLC that is the basis for our open source building management system that is very flexible and allows the client to add different functionalities over time, which is very much valued by our client. And the fifth one is sustainable living and workplaces, which is all our real estate development activities that we want to develop, in particular as it relates to sustainable projects. We now go a little bit more in detail over in the various business segments. And but before I do that, I just want to talk a little bit more about synergies. And so we see significant accretive value by the combination of our activities. And first of all, we have significant intergroup revenue generation. So almost all of the projects that BPI, our real estate arm, develops are actually built by our construction companies. And that provides a very good base load, which is also very important when we go through the cycles. And it also allows really to offer end-to-end solutions to our client. And by putting this expertise from acquisition of the ground up to the maintenance of the building afterwards, it really provides control over the value chain, better knowledge of the value chain, so we can optimize the total cost of ownership. So this expertise, by putting it together, has real added value. We talked already about the optimized financial management with complementary working capital profiles. And the other thing that is a real benefit is by having those expertise under one roof, we really also provide interesting career paths for our people. So we have centers of expertise in various fields. But when people want to evolve, we can provide them other growth paths and career development path or interest path, and that allows people to stay, attached to the company and can really see a whole career within the group. And just to summarize here, also, our different competencies, I mean, they are going way beyond just, the technical expertise, and so, for example, we have really developed an expertise of what we call early involvement, collaboration, and partnering. So we have many projects that we do in an upfront basis, in a kind of a BOUT team, what we call, or an early involvement, integrated development together with the client. The second thing that we are developing is an expertise, which is a complete expertise where we aim to have not only the technical expertise of a project, but also the financial, obviously, but also the sustainability aspect. So by having the entire knowledge about the impact and the optimization potential of a project, that is providing a real value added to our clients. I think the other topics we have already covered more or less, or I will come back to those later on in the presentation about the building segment. With that, I will pass it over now to Fabien, who will cover the real estate business.
Thank you, Raymond. This is an artist's impression showing the wooden project in the south part of Luxembourg. This is a 10,000 square meters office building, which perfectly illustrates the Cifi strategy. First, this is an iconic building in terms of well-being and sustainability with a wooden framework. It will be certified BREEAM Excellent and WELL Gold. Such environmentally friendly building is very attractive for potential tenants. It was fully rented before the start of the construction, and there are a lot of investors looking at the project to invest. Wooden, it's also a very good example, as explained by Raymond, about the synergies between the different entities within Cifi. In fact, 3 entities were involved in that project. Bpi as the real estate developer, CLE, which is our construction company for Luxembourg, and Woodshapers, which is specialized for bio-based construction. So Bpi is a very renowned developer with a focus on inner city and urban development. That's key for us. We want to be in the heart of the city of tomorrow. Bpi is a long story for Cifi. We acquired this company about 18 years ago, and since then, they always generated high profits. Last year, the net profit reached 23 million. We obtained a return on equity of 22% and a return on capital employed of about 16%. The portfolio of Bpi grew over time, and it reached about 500,000 square meters at the end of last year. And this portfolio is split in 2 countries, Belgium and more specifically Brussels, Luxembourg and Poland. In terms of split, we have the major part of the project being residential project, but we have also office buildings and some retail. This portfolio has the gross development value of 1.6 billion euro. What are the key assets of Bpi? First of all, is the in-depth know-how of the different real estate markets. As you know, for real estate, location is key. So for us, our focus is to have some off-market acquisitions, and we also specifically focus on the urban district and the heart of the cities. We have also a very well-diversified portfolio and well-balanced portfolio between mixed-use project, residential, and also office building, but also in terms of short, medium, and long cycles. Such a well-balanced portfolio enables Bpi to offer a base load of profit year after year. As already mentioned, the focus on the well-being and the sustainability is key for us, and we have already developed a lot of wooden construction, and we try to reuse the maximum of the materials we are doing. A last point, which is very specific for Bpi, it's also the fact that we seek for partnerships with other real estate developers or even with investors. It enables us to diversify the sourcing, the know-how, and the risk of the portfolio. You see here some examples of projects that we have developed in the past, but also a selection of highly attractive project portfolio that we are currently developing within Bpi. The first one, Move Up, is located in front of the central station of Brussels, and it will be a development mainly of office spaces, but we will also develop affordable flats, and which is particularity to be a reference in terms of sustainability. The second one I want to illustrate is Arlon 53. The building, was built in the 70s, is located in the heart of the European district in Brussels, and there we will undergo an extensive future-proof renovation with a focus on the reuse of all the materials. That is fully part of our strategy right now. In Poland, we are developing the project Mateszki, which is located in Poznan, which is a city in the west part of Poland. This project is very located close to the city center. It will be a new urban district. It's a long cycle project because the development will take between 6 to 8 years. And we will recreate a new small city within the city with a mix of functions, HoReCa, retail, residential, and office building. Here I show you the pipeline of Bpi going forward. For the moment, we have about 10 projects under construction and under marketing. You have to know that for all these projects, the pace of the sales are very good and fully conform with our expectation. You see also that we have a lot of projects which are currently in the developing phase, in the study phase, where we have already received the permits, or for projects that we will receive the permit pretty soon. So it gives you a clear view on the portfolio and the future project that Bpi will develop, and we have a high visibility of the cash flow for at least the next 3 years. I pass now the floor to Raymund from the Multitechnics.
Thank you, Fabien. As I mentioned before, we operate the Multitechnics business under, or segment under, 2 different companies. One is VMA for buildings and industry, and one is called Mobix for mobility and utilities. And I cover those separately, but we are really trying in both to offer end-to-end solutions to our clients as a one-stop shop, and really try to work directly with the end client as much as possible. And that's really what we are trying to do. At VMA, we are much more than an installation company. And we are now a 200 million euro business with about 1,000 people. And we really have 5 areas of expertise. Number 1, the multi-technical installation. And there we're not only installing electricity and HVAC, but we are also in cooling, we are also in data, we are in security, and we also install smart building management systems. So we can offer the entire package from an installation standpoint to our clients. The second one is total process solutions. Total process solution is really for the process industries, whether it's for food, for pharma, or healthcare, or for chemical. And there we can go from simple PLCs in installation over SCADA visualization system up to and more into full manufacturing execution systems. And that's what clients ask us more and more, is to look at their manufacturing line and see how can we optimize our manufacturing line by putting technology, sensors to steering and to visualization and correction devices into full manufacturing line. Those services we provide now to more and more clients. The third one is robotization. That's mostly for the automotive industry, and robotization is for conveyor lines, is for assembly lines, but more and more also now for battery factories. We see a very strong growth of new battery factories plans, and our technology is there, which is really the programming of the robots, the installation, the commissioning, the calibration. Is technologies that can exactly be and are applied to the battery factor. So the rapid electrification is a real growth driver for this segment. And we have the maintenance business, which is something we started up now about 7 years ago. It's very fast growing, and we offer today the full maintenance of all the technical installations for buildings. And the fifth is energy optimization. And energy optimization is something that we do for clients, and it can be small scale, which can be just a scan of the performance of a building for a client. But that's too very seldom that we stop there. Mostly then we do the upgrade of the equipment that is required. We do the monitoring of the equipment that is required, but we can also go up to complete global performance contracts. It's also called ESCO energy service contracts, where we commit to a certain energy savings to a client by making the investment, by also having been able to finance the investment, committing to a certain energy saving, and also doing then the maintenance of the installation afterwards, which is a future growth area for us. As I mentioned, for us, it's all about an integrated solution, a total solution offering. So we're not only doing installation, we're also doing the engineering, we're doing the design, the optimization of the project upfront together with the client. We do this all in digital technology, what we call building information modeling. It can then afterwards be used also, for the documentation to the client, also for the maintenance. So all this business is all run in digital technologies, and we have really long-standing client relationships. I just mentioned some here on the slide. I might mention some other ones. For example, Nike for the European Distribution Center. We did the whole installation of the technology there, but then now we do also all the maintenance on all the upgrades of this. For Proximus, we're doing now the visualization of there are close to 1,000 buildings they have in Belgium. They use our technology to have the information about what's going on in the building and how can they better optimize the cost and the energy consumption of the buildings. Or for GIA, for example, GIA is one of the largest integrator of technology for the food industry worldwide, and we have a partnership with GIA to do a number of projects together. So VMR operates primarily in two segments, as I mentioned, building technology and industrial automation. In building technology, our strategy is really global solutions from engineering up to maintenance. We obviously do this also with cross-selling opportunities. We focus on certain sectors, but the most important where we see the best potential for us in the future is in healthcare and in offices, because there also the investment in technical installation has grown rapidly over the last years and is continue to expect to grow. And we're really looking there for long-term relationships, particularly with end clients. In industrial automation, in automotive, we did an acquisition there, a very successful acquisition, a company called Rolling Robotics, which was a partner for us before, with which we did projects together. And the collaboration was so good that we decided, to also join in the capital. And so we took over 100% of the shares of Rolling Robotics, and it really brought us into a new technology, which is virtual commissioning. So we have there about 50, 60 software programmers in Poland, and we actually can do or simulate what will happen on the actual manufacturing line with very high level of precision before we actually have to go onto the manufacturing line and make the modifications on a physical basis. So that allows us to have much more certainty, that allows us to have much more quality, and that allows us also to have a reduced downtime at the manufacturer, which is a very key parameter for those automotive lines. And in process manufacturing technologies, as I mentioned before, we are really trying that more and more to get into manufacturing operations, integration, what we call also MOM. There we are focused particularly on food, and the food sector, we have some really worldwide leaders here in Belgium, active in Belgium and in Holland. So for us, it's also something where we can follow the client more internationally. And there as well, we are looking for a buy and build strategy to add talent and resource capability towards this business segment. The second company in Multitechnics is Mobix, and in Mobix we are focused on two segments. One is rail. Rail is the largest part of the 125 million turnover, and as I mentioned before, we have all the technologies in-house with track, electrification, signalization, and also groundworks. And that's with that we can be really a solid and partner to Infrabel primarily, who is our largest client. For example, we did with big success a large massification project where we had very, very little time to do a whole renewal of an entire track project in 2021 with big success. It was the largest massification project so far in Belgium. Belgium has one of the densest rail networks in all of Europe. It has the densest one, and the uptime of the network has to increase, as rail is a key aspect of the shift towards multimodal transport and away from the highways purely. The second one is in utilities, and there our largest project today is also the largest public-private partnership currently going on in Belgium, and there's a project called LUA, which consists of the modernization and the maintenance for 20 years of the lighting on the public highways, on the Walloon highways that we're doing in partnership together with EDF Luminous. Construction and renovation, which is a much more fragmented market. There we are active in 3 countries, and I give a short overview of our presence and our strategy in those 3 countries. In Belgium, we are a long-established player. We are now active since 100 years. We have more than 1,000 people on more than 100 projects at the same time working, and we operate through 7 either regional construction companies or more specialized construction companies like wood shapers, as you can see on the top here. And we're actually doing a rebranding of all Cfe and also of our construction and renovation business that we will go public with in September, and that we will have much more unity and uniformity in the way that we go to the market. But those logos will change by that point in time. Nevertheless, our strategy will not change, and our strategy there is all about, first of all, being selective in the projects we take on. So it's client selections, market selection, and really having a good risk profile in the project that we take on is our number 1 priority. Number 2 is to really invest in our future, and it's construction 2.0 with wood shapers. It's an innovation. We establish an innovation process with a tool. We also invest heavily in sustainability to really make sure that our construction business is also future-proof. And some of the projects we have already seen before. On the bottom, you can see our portfolio as it relates to our end markets, and that's very important to us, is that we not only focus on one end market, also from a risk management, but that we have a balanced end market portfolio, which you will see it is a very balanced end market portfolio that we do have. In Luxembourg, we are now present since 50 years. In Luxembourg, we are local. We are now considered a real local player, but with the benefit of being part of a solid, well-recognized international group. So that's a very strong position we have. We have developed the capability to execute some of the biggest and most complex projects in Luxembourg. Like you can see some residential towers, some of the first residential tower projects in Luxembourg. And we have been really the pioneer in innovative construction techniques. For example, we're the first one to use the lean technologies that come from the industry on our construction site, smart logistics, and also building information modeling. We also have a particular that Bpi in Luxembourg is extremely active and strong, and so a big part of the turnover actually of our Luxembourg construction company is made with a project of Bpi that you can actually see here, 2 on the right-hand side of these pictures. And last but not least, in Poland, which is an excellent market for us. We are now present since 26 years. Have built a very strong presence now with turnover of more than 130 million. And the particularity that we have in Poland is that we are active only there in the private market and not on public projects. And the vast majority of our clients are international clients with a local presence, and that really value this combination of us being locally present with very strong knowledge of the local market, but also have an approach as an international player, and that has really helped us very well in our positioning. We are active there, strong in industry, also in logistics, and not only in a residential project. So we do see very good prospects for us going forward in the wider region of Poland and potentially also in the neighboring countries. And one word also on our company called Wood Shapers that I briefly mentioned before. We started this company up a couple of years ago to really change a paradigm and to really make offsite construction more industrialized construction for larger scale building based primarily on bio-based materials, and in a different way of approaching the relationship with the client, what we call an integrated delivery of the project, where we are together from the beginning with the client in a real partnership approach to optimize the project from the beginning. And as I mentioned before, not only from a technical standpoint, but also from a financial or economic standpoint, and from an environmental or sustainability aspect. And it's this cooperation from the beginning that's then combined with offsite manufacturing that allows really an efficient way of making the building the parts, and a faster and safer execution on the job site that at the end allows us to have a very sustainable and competitive product in the market. And we do believe that we will see very good prospects in the future, as we see already today for these kind of solutions in our neighboring countries, particularly in the Nordics, in the Netherlands, and also in France.
The last segment of Cifi is the investments. This is a picture of our industrial zone in the north of Vietnam called Deep Sea. 3 years ago, it was a mix of sea and swamp. Since then, we have reclaimed the land, built the infrastructure and the utility networks, and finally sold the plot to industrial customers who have developed their ready-built factories and warehouses. Within this segment, we have two joint ventures. The first one is called Renteport. They are a joint venture with our controlling shareholder Ackermans Van Aren, and we have a stake of 50%. Renteport is mainly active in the north of Vietnam, where we are developing industrial lands and also developing a wide range of services to our customers. The services represent already 1/3 of the turnover of the company. It means that there are electricity, there are telecom, waste treatment, logistics, but also all the operations linked to the liquids jetties. We will continue to further develop these industrial zones in the future because we have 5 concessions representing more than 1,850 hectares to be developed in the coming 6 years. It represents about a turnover of 600 million for the CFE shares for the future. Deep Sea positions itself as a very high quality industrial zone, far above the local standard in terms of services, but also in terms of sustainability approach. The second activity of Renteport is the development of battery energy storage system. We have already developed one project in the south part of Belgium with an installed power of 10 MW, and there are other projects in the pipe. The second joint venture that we have also with Ackermans Van Aren is Green Offshore. Green Offshore is an holding company having a stake, a minority stake into offshore wind farms in Belgium, Seamate and Rentel. These 2 parts are in full operations for the moment and generate constant cash flows, which represent a high profitability for CFE. I will now go through the key financials of CFE. In terms of revenue, you will see that we have a constant growth of revenue of about 12% on a yearly basis. Our turnover reached 1.1 billion for last year. We have also a very strong order book with an amount of 1.6 billion. Our main activities are made in Belgium, it's about 70%, but we have also a growing share of our activities in Poland and Luxembourg. In terms of profitability, Last year, we reached an EBIT of 58 million euro, representing an EBIT margin of 5.2%. It was a record level. Also, in terms of net profits, we almost reached 40 million euro post-tax. In terms of return of capital and return of capital employed, you see that we are far above the standard of the market, because last year our return on equity reached 41% and the return on capital employed 27%. You see that Cifi is a very well profitable company since many years, and we will now give you more in-depth detail of the performance of all the business segments. You see, first of all, in terms of revenue, the revenue are mainly at the level of the multi-techniques and the construction and renovation business. You see that the growth of multi-techniques is important. Even in 2020, during the COVID, we succeed to increase the revenue by 4.5%, which was clearly an achievement. And we will continue to grow in multi-techniques in the coming years. The construction and renovation represents about 700 million turnover. 500 million is made in Belgium. For these activities, the focus will be not to grow too much, but to focus on niche markets. When you see the EBIT distribution between the different segments, you see that a bit more than 50% of the profitability is generated by BPI, by the real estate activities. We reached an EBIT of 30 million last year, but the multi-techniques also generated high profitability, with about 90 million last year, representing an EBIT margin of 5.8%, which is in the range that we aim to achieve. You see on the other hand that the profitability of the construction and renovation segment is increasing compared to 2020, which was deeply impacted by the COVID situation, but it remains far below our expectations. It reached 1.3% last year, and the objective is to reach 3% on the medium range. In terms of capital employed, we have at BPI a bit less than 200 million invested in the portfolio. Historically, we had a capital employed between 100 and 150 million, and we have decided 2 years ago to increase this amount to 200 or 250 million in the future. A part of this capital employed is financed by the negative working capital of the construction and multi-techniques segments. You see also that Cifi is not a very capital intensive company. We have capex of about 20 million on a yearly basis. We have very strong results, but also a very strong balance sheet. You see that we increased the equity years after years. 5 years ago, the equity of Cifi was about 60 million, and last year we reached 134, and it will continue to grow this year, on one hand because of the result of the year, and on the other hand because we collect a dividend of DEME during the first quarter of 41 million euro. You see also that the financial debt is fully under control, even that we invest massively in our real estate portfolio with a gearing below 50%. The last point I want to mention is the level of goodwill. It's only 24 million euro, and it's only for entities in the multi-techniques segment. Here you see the split of the gross financial debt of Cifi amounting 256 million. You see that we have a very well diversified sources of financing, corporate financing, but also project financing for the real estate project. We have also some leasings. We successfully refinance all the corporate facilities at the level of Cifi during the last week, and we will have now 170 million revolving facilities for the future of Cifi. It shows you that the banks are fully confident about the new story and the new strategy of Cifi. As already explained, you see that the cash surplus of the multi-techniques and the construction business is reinvested in the real estate portfolio. I will not spend too much time on this graph because I already explained the split of the gross development value at BPI. I will just mention that we have a very strong order book of 1.6 billion. It's very important at the moment that the economy will probably slow down in the coming trimester. We are well armed to face this negative evolution. We have already 100% of the turnover of this year, and we have already a strong order book for next year. In terms of guidance, despite the high impact of the rising material price and the disruption of the supply chains, we will succeed to maintain a high level of net result for this year. Of course, it will be lower than in 2021, but it will remain above the long-term objective of 15% of return on equity. What are the midterm targets of Cifi? As already mentioned, the focus is not too much on the revenue. We want only a moderate revenue growth, especially in the niche market in multi-techniques, but also from some activities like wood shapers. The focus is clearly on the improvement of the bottom line, and especially for the construction and renovation segment, because we put in place a lot of initiatives in terms of selective bidding and operational excellence, and such initiatives should enable us to reach our target or medium range target of 3% for the construction segment. As mentioned, the return on equity or outlook would be above 15% for the coming years, and we will resume the payment of the dividends as from 2023 with a payout ratio of 25%. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabien. Well, maybe just here to summarize, we are very excited about our future, and we believe that Cfe is a very attractive investment opportunity. We have some really strong leadership positions in some core markets that are key to the future of society, and where many things will happen, many investments will happen, and we are well positioned for this. Number two, we have a very solid, strong, healthy financial profile. Number three, we have an experienced management team. And number four, we have a very stable, committed majority shareholders that are with us for the future. So all of this together, we believe makes a very attractive investment opportunity. Thank you very much for your attention. I propose now that we go maybe through some of the questions. Here is one question that I see is what is the impact of the current high inflation that we see on the material prices, and also the impact of the increased interest rates on our business. Maybe I can cover the part that is related to the construction activities. Maybe Fabien, you can cover more the one which is impacted on our, the impact on our real estate business. When I look at our construction activities, we have to make a distinction between which markets we are in. In the public markets, generally speaking, the public markets, we have a price indexation formula that is included when we make a tender and when we win a project. So generally speaking, this formula reflects more or less well the evolution of material prices and of the inflation on labor. So for those segments, we are generally quite protected. On private markets, on private clients, there are some where we had traditionally some form of indexation, but that was the minority. But since now February and March this year, when we really saw a spike in inflation, all the new contracts that we have signed include some shape or form of indexation formula or clause or agreement together with the client. As it relates to the contracts that were in place, in particular those that were signed in 2021 and beginning of 2022, some of the projects were already more advanced in terms of making the purchases, and so there we have limited exposure or limited risk because most of the purchases were done. It's really those contracts that were signed primarily in the fourth quarter of last year and the first couple of weeks of this year, where we had still some lump sum contracts and where the purchases were not yet made. And for those, we are in negotiations with our suppliers. We are also in negotiations there with our clients in order to minimize the impact of those unexpected and incredible material price inflation that we have seen, which amount to sometimes more than 20–25%, which is something unheard of in our sector. And those discussions are going on with some clients, and it goes very well, and the clients have a big understanding for it. With other ones, we have more difficult discussions. It's too early today to conclude on those, as some of those negotiations will still go on until the rest of this year. Maybe for the real estate business.
Yeah, Bpi faced, of course, price increase for the construction. But up to now, we always succeed to pass through this increase in the sale price of our residential units. And which is also very important, we continue to keep the same pace of sales as we have before. But of course, if the construction continues to increase in the coming trimesters, it will be a limit for us to pass through such increase to the final customers, and at that time it might be an impact, but for the moment it's not the case.
Okay. Now what we do see also today is that because of the increased prices, we do see that some clients are today postponing the decision on whether they should start their new project or whether they should wait. So there are some projects that are currently for the decision to start are postponed, and if this would prevail for longer, then at some point in time this would obviously also have an impact on the underlying demand, particularly for 2023 and 2024. But at this point in time, it's a little bit too early to make a good assessment of this. Yeah, one other question was, okay, could you elaborate on how you estimate that climate change will impact your business? Well, on the short term, it has no impact on the very short term. What we do, however, see is that climate change is a real business opportunity for us. It will definitely have an impact on our sectors. As I mentioned, they are so important in terms of impact on climate change. So there will be some form of shift that will happen. What we do see, for example, is that for new projects, it's becoming more and more difficult to destroy a building and to rebuild a new building. You first have to prove, can you not renovate an existing building? And we think that's actually a good approach, not for all the buildings, but because some are really not suited anymore for the user. But in general speaking, that's a good approach. So as I mentioned, the renovation business is a real opportunity for us to develop in the future, as is bio-based material, where we have already developed quite some competencies and some track record, and energy optimization programs, like the one that we do at VMR. And for Bpi, it has already been since the last couple of years a key growth area to focus really on sustainable development. So over the medium term, we do see this as an opportunity, and we also see now finally that that the legislation change is also accelerating in this regard. So we can expect that these legislations will have an increasingly important impact on our activities going forward. Oh yeah, there was one other question that was our acquisition strategy, and what was the reason why we have done the acquisition of Rolling Robotics last year, and whether there are other acquisitions that could come in this field. And the answer is yes, there might be other acquisitions coming in this field. So Rolling Robotics for us was really an opportunity to move up, I would say, in the value chain. Traditionally, we have been focused much more on the installation of the robots at our clients, and now with Rolling Robotics, we really moved up and we went into the programming and the commissioning and the virtual commissioning, as I mentioned before. So these are really added value tasks that we are now able to do, and so we can now offer also the entire package to our clients. And that's something that we see more and more that clients are asking for, is to have one partner that can really provide them a one-stop solution. And this programming and commission is important. We see the same in industrial automation for the process in industry. So we are looking at opportunities to develop those, let's say, technology-based businesses, not only internally, but also through targeted acquisitions. Obviously, they need to fit our strategy in terms of geographical scope, in terms of capabilities, and also market focus. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I hope this was an interesting session for you and that we answered all of your questions. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Polyro.be. Beleg online met inzicht.